These are some more of the most beloved films ever, just not for the reason that were originally intended. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be counting down our picks for another top 10 movies that are so bad, they're good. Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. For this list, we're focusing on unintentional humor, so entertainment movies meant to be campy or silly, like the Sharknado franchise, won't appear. Sharks! If you don't see a film you think should be here, be sure to check out our first list on the topic. Number 10, Showgirls.
You can't touch me, but I can touch you. I'd really love to touch you.
It's a film made by the director of RoboCop and Starship Troopers, about strippers, but it's not quite how you'd imagine it. While seemingly gratuitous nudity was used as social commentary in both of these films, here it's the core element of the plot, which follows a plucky hero stripping her way to the top in Vegas.
Thrust it! Thrust it! Come on, thrust it! Bob! Okay.
It's filmed with one-dimensional stock characters, a terrible script, and a lot of female nudity. Despite failing critically and financially, it's become a cult classic over the years, and particularly iconic in the gay community.
It's not dancing, I know that much.
Number 9, Xanadu.
Sonny, how did you get here?
The late 70s saw plenty of bad Star Wars knockoffs, and just as many terrible Saturday Night Fever knockoffs. But it wasn't until 1980 that someone had the insane idea of trying to rip off both in the same movie.
You're right. It's too coincidental. Someone must be setting this up.
This hodgepodge of bad ideas, subpar acting, and a clearly rewritten script is so downright nonsensical and goofy, it's nearly impossible to not be entertained.
Have you ever heard the expression kissed by a muse? That's what I am. I'm a muse.
But what really sets it apart is the super catchy soundtrack from ELO and Olivia Newton-John, which provides a perfect fit for the film's unique aesthetic, and proved to be far more successful than the film it was meant to support. Number 8, Jaws 3D.
Overman was killed inside the park. The baby was caught inside the park.
While the first Jaws film is hailed as one of the best thrillers ever made and responsible for creating the summer blockbuster, by the third installment, the premise was beginning to wear thin. Where Jaws was an intense character-driven thriller, Jaws 3D was a hilariously bad 80s horror film that followed the unfortunate 80s trend of attempting 3D. The movie is filled with gimmicky shots that were bad enough viewed through blue and red glasses, but are side-splittingly hilarious when watched normally. This includes the notorious shot of a static shark slowly drifting towards the camera before, dramatically, breaking through a glass barrier. Number 7, Torque.
I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
What's cooler than cars? Motorcycles seem to have been the thought process of the people behind this gem of a film when it was gifted to the world. It tries so hard to be cooler than Fast and Furious that it's comical, with its video game-like action and plot about a man framed for murder chased by both a rival gang and the police.
Bob, this is why I hate four wheels.
But you know what? Insane motorcycle stunts are actually pretty cool, and the main antagonist played by the seemingly perpetually grumpy Ice Cube are still entertaining even in a movie as bad as this.
You know I can smash you right now. You and your little tricycle friends.
Number 6, Anaconda. Here we have a movie about a giant man-eating snake stalking what must be the most random documentary crew ever assembled, which featured Ice Cube, Owen Wilson, and Jonathan Hyde as a walking British stereotype.
Rather hope I'd done my bit.
Of course, as entertaining as some of these characters are, none are as great as the over-the-top, hammy, insane, and weirdly accented performance Jon Voight gives as a Paraguayan snake hunter.
Never look in the eyes of those you kill. They will haunt you forever. I know.
The sheer stupidity of the characters and the bad writing, combined with the ludicrous but actually impressive action set pieces, make this train wreck a pretty fun watch. Number 5, Cool as Ice.
Face the music, then I'm right behind with a posse of mic and a funky rhyme. It doesn't take a lot of time for me to climb.
Ice Ice Baby remains popular to this day, not because it's cool, but because it's so lame and trying so hard to be awesome that it's hilarious. Cool as Ice is the cinematic equivalent of that song. Vanilla Ice rolls into a town of yuppies on his motorcycle in a musical romantic comedy, which inexplicably turns into an action kidnapping adventure. If none of that description makes sense to you, don't worry. The entire movie is just as bizarre. How and why this movie even exists is a mystery, but we're glad we have this time portal to an era when Vanilla Ice was king.
Fira. All right, partner. And it was very pleasant meeting you.
Number 4, Jason X.
Professor, where do you want this? Lab 2, I think.
When a long-running franchise runs out of ideas, one of their favorite tricks is to make the next installment in space. It pretty much never works out, but since the Friday the 13th franchise had been releasing progressively worse films, they gave it a shot anyway. Jason X sought to be a cool, edgy, and of course extreme horror movie for the new millennium. And of course, it failed on all accounts. But it did succeed in being hilarious.
What the hell is that?
Humanoid.
It plays more like an over-the-top parody of both horror and science fiction films than the serious and foreboding film that was intended.
This sucks on so many levels!
Number 3, Samurai Cop.
We are not an established gang yet.
This film feels more like something shot by a couple of friends on a VHS camcorder than a professionally made film intended for distribution. Signs of trouble include the jarring cuts, lack of lighting, bad soundtrack, and a lady's wig on the male lead in a number of scenes. Not to mention that it's also direct-to-video.
Why did you come under?
I'm an undercover cop.
Perhaps the most hilariously dumb thing is the ADR, which was done by the director because he couldn't afford bringing the actors back to redub their own lines. And that's just the technical stuff. The whole movie's plot is filled with nonsensical dialogue, a comically sexist lead, and the lamest action scenes ever. Number 2, The Happening.
Let's just break up into groups.
M. Night Shyamalan has made some entertaining films, and he has made some terrible ones too, but this is arguably his only film that is both. The Happening is like a masterclass for unintentional humor, with the gimmicky suicides, bizarre close-ups, and characters who speak in the most absurd way possible.
Oh no.
I don't know.
Shyamalan also takes a pair of talented leading actors and essentially makes them parodies of themselves. Zooey Deschanel seems to constantly have a creepy, confused look on, and Mark Wahlberg delivers his terribly written dialogue in a state of constant confusion. Throw in random and nonsensical moments, and you have comic gold.
Then we're just gonna leave. I hope that's okay.
Number 1, Roadhouse.
I want you to be nice until it's time to not be nice.
The 80s were chock full of completely stupid but fun-to-watch action movies, and few were better than Roadhouse. The movie is a sort of perfect amalgamation of 80s tough guy cliches, with Patrick Swayze as a philosopher fighter named James who leaves New York to become a bouncer for a small-town bar. Of course, once there, he meets a local businessman who's into racketeering and extortion, and who blows stuff up and has Dalton's mentor killed for good measure.
I said 1 beer, senor.
Being the guilty pleasure that it is, Roadhouse is filled with one-liners, nudity, and a couple of ripped-out throats.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo and subscribe for new videos every day.